So they realize that they can't, you know. All right, guys, let's take a look at this right here, right? Let's take a look at this problem right here. Who wants to read it? Aiden.
4 out of 5 people are right-handed, kind of like me. If there are 30 students in a class, how many would you expect to be right-handed?
Okay.
You said kind of like me? Yes.
So what are we trying to find? What's the question? What is the question? Mr. Williams.
How many people are right-handed out of 30 people?
You got it. So what's our initial ratio look like? What's our initial ratio going to look like? Shane?
4 out of 5.
Yeah. So we're going to have 4, and there's going to call them right-handed, out of 5 total people, right? Always using units, so I can always make sure I get the right things on top. Make sure that I got the right thing in the numerator, I get the right thing in the denominator. And so, what are we trying to find, Shane?
The amount of right-handed class.
Out of how many?
30.
Okay, so we're trying to find how many right-handeds, right, out of 30 total people, right? So let's let X equal that question mark of right-handed people, okay? So what's our proportion going to look like? Dorian?
It's going to be, that 4 over 5
Okay, so we're going to go 4 over 5, yeah?
equals X over 30.
X over 30. And how can we go about trying to solve this? What do you think we can go about trying to solve this? Who's got an idea? Suzanne? You can cross multiply. We can use cross products, right? We can go 4 times 30 equals 5 times X. What's 4 times 30? Aiden?
Oh, couldn't you just do the easy way?
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that another one.
Alright.
So how do I do this right now that we're down this road of doing cross products? What do we got to do? What's 4 times 30 equals, Daniel? 120 equals 5 times X is 5X. So now how do I go about solving for X? Suzanne?
You divide by 5 on both sides.
Divide by 5 on both sides. Divide by 5. Right? 5's cross out. What's 120 divided by 5? Destiny? 24. So 24 equals X. So what does it mean? What does that 24 mean? Danny?
There are 24 students that are right-handed out of 30 in a row.
Right. So there's 24. I'm just going to call it right-handed students. But we would expect to find 24 right-handed students in a class of 30. That's all it means. Now, Aiden, you had mentioned something else. When you had 4 over 5 here, right? 4 over 5 equals X over 20, or X over 30. You'd said, can't we do it a different way? What way were you talking about?
5 times 6 equals 30. 4 times 6 equals 20.
Okay, right? So Aiden's talking about doing it by equivalent fractions. He says that 5 times 6 is going to equal my 30. Whatever I multiply the denominator by, I have to multiply by the numerator. So 4 times 6 is going to equal 24. So X would equal 24. And it means the same thing, that there are 24 right-handed students. All right, nice job. All right, let's take a look at this next problem right here. I'll read this one. The amount of paper recycled is directly proportional to the number of trees that recycling saves. If recycling 2,000 pounds of paper saves 17 trees, how many trees are saved when 5,000 pounds of paper are recycled? All right, so looking at that, what do you think our first ratio that we can come up with is? The very first ratio. Dorian?
2,000 over 17.
Okay, so we have 2,000, and I'm just going to say 2,000 pounds over 17 trees. And what are we trying to find, Dorian?
How many trees are saved if you recycle 5,000?
Okay, so we have 5,000 pounds, and we're trying to find how many trees, right? So again, let X equal the number of trees, right? When we recycle 5,000 pounds. So what does our proportion look like? What do we got for a proportion? What do you think our proportion looks like? Mr. Kearns?
2,000 over 17 equals 5,000 over X.
All right, 2,000, right, this is 2,000 pounds over 17 trees equals 5,000 pounds over X trees. So how do we solve this? Aiden,
Cross multiply.
cross multiply, right? So we go 2,000 times X equals 5,000 times 17, right? Cross multiply means we're multiplying that times that. So 2,000 times X is 2,000X. What's 5,000 times 17? Alex?
85,000.
Okay, so we have 2,000X equals 85,000. How do we solve for X? What do we got to do to solve for X? Shane?
You divide by 1,000.
Yeah, we divide both sides by 2,000. Right? They cross out, we're going to get X is equal to, what's 85,000 divided by 2,000? What do we get? Dorian?
42.5.
42.5. Okay. So what does that 42.5 mean? Dorian?
So you can say 42 and a half trees for 5,000 pounds of paper.
Right, so we can say 42.5 trees if we recycle 5,000 pounds of paper. And you could probably, round that 42.5 up to approximately, 43 trees. All right, guys, nice job. Let's take a look at the reverse side, the next page, a microscope. After the next page, the microscope, right? So who wants to read this one? A microscope slides. Go ahead, Suzanne.
A microscope slide shows 37 red blood cells out of 60 blood cells. How many red blood cells would be expected in a sample of the same blood that has 925 blood cells?
Ooh, we're going to try to get this thing in focus. Doesn't really do much. Okay. So we have 37 red blood cells out of 60 blood cells. We're trying to find how many red blood cells would be expected in a sample of the same blood that has 925 blood cells. So what do you think our proportion looks, or our ratio looks like? What ratio are we going to start with? What ratio are we going to start with, Shane?
37 over 60.
You got it. We're going to start with 37. I'm going to call it 37 reds over 60, and I'm just going to call them B. 37 reds over 60 B. 37 red blood cells over 60 blood cells. All right, and what are we trying to find? What's the question asking us, Shane?
How many red blood cells would be expected in a sample of 925 blood?
Okay, so we have a question mark. How many red blood cells in 925 blood cells? So that becomes that question mark over 925, right? How many reds in 925 blood cells? So, like we did before, let X equal the number of red, right? We're going to define our variable. Let X equal the number of red. So what does our proportion now look like? How are we setting up our proportion? Daniel?
37 reds over 60 blood cells total, and then equals to X reds over 925 blood cells.
Nice job. Nice job. Now what do we got to do to solve that? How do we solve that, guy? Destiny? Cross multiply, cross products, right? So we got to go 37 times 925 equals 60 times X. 37 times 925, what do we got for a number? What do we got for a number? Alex?
34,225.
34,000? I didn't hear it.
34,225.
Okay, equals 60X. How do we solve for X? What do we got to do to solve for X? Dorian?
Divided by 60.
Divide by 60. And when we divide by 60, they'll cross out here. What do we get on this side? Daniel? Oh, Dan, excuse me.
570.416.
Okay, we can stop at the nearest tenth. What's the nearest tenth?
570.4.
Okay, so we've got 570.4 equals x. So what does that mean? 570.4. 574.4 what? What exactly does that mean? Destiny?
We rounded to 500 and
Right, 570.4 or approximately, right? 570 red blood cells would be expected to be found in 925 blood cells. That's exactly what it means. Nice job, Destiny. All right, the last one. Last problem. We've got a recipe that serves 10 people and calls for 3 cups of flour. If you wanted to make the recipe for 15 people, how many cups of flour should you use? So what do we got going on here? What's our initial ratio going to look like? What are we going to come up with, Dorian? What do you got? 10 over 3. So we have 10 people over 3 cups. And what are we trying to find? Taryn, what are we trying to find?
How many cups for 15?
Right, so we're trying to find, we have 15 people, and we're trying to find X number of cups. So we're going to set up our proportion, right? We know that there's 10 people, we have 3 cups. We have 15 people, we're trying to find out how many cups, and we're going to let X equal the number of cups. That's what X equals, the number of cups. So in our proportion, right, in our proportion, what does it look like when we set up our proportion? Who can set up the proportion? Mr. Kearns?
10 over 3 equals 15 over
10 over 3 equals 15 over
x.
X. And how do I go about solving that? Jordan? You got it. We're going to go use cross products. We're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to go 10 times X equals 15 times 3. 10 times X is, Jordan? You got it. 10X equals 15 times 3. Yeah, and how do we solve for X, Jordan? Finish it off. Divide by 10, yep. Divide by 10. They cross out. I'm left with X is equal to, what's 45 divided by 10? Daniel? Okay. Now I got 4.5. 4.5 what, Dorian? You got it. 4.5 cups of flour.
Can you round that to 5?
Nope. Because this is like a recipe, right? It would be too much. It'd be too thick, Dorian. 4.5 cups of flour needed for 15 people for whatever recipe this is. And that is what it is. Yeah, Mr. Kearns.
If you put 4.5 cups of flour serves 15 people.
Exactly. 14.5 cups of flour serves 15 people. Nice job, guys.